Lending and borrowing during this time period, this was the heyday. This was the market that the banks created.
Right.
They created this inflated marketplace.
That's true.
They got people under their thumbs to get this, to get that control and gain control over the homeowner. It's time to take the fight to the banks. It's a natural progression. The banks are simply not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're obligated to.
And let's kind of roll back time just a little bit and go back to that time where there was this frenzy of lending, and what happened was there was cheap money and lots of it that became available to lenders like IndyMac and Countrywide.
Right.
And so the rampage was to get people to refinance because interest rates were lower, to get first-time homeowners. There were people that should not have refinanced, that didn't get any money out of it, that just they increased what they owed, but they lowered their payments because the interest rates came down. There were people that bought homes that should not have qualified. There were people that were refinanced because the loan documentation referenced businesses that they didn't own, income streams that they didn't have, liar loans, and the banks weren't watching, and they didn't care because it wasn't their money. And so you take, for example, a Countrywide that would get a warehouse loan or the ability to lend out $50 million, and they didn't care where that money got lent as long as it got lent, because before that money was even loaned out, they had the loans repackaged, syndicated, somebody rated it AAA paper, and then it got resold. So they made an origination fee, and they kept it for servicing purposes until they sold that off also. They didn't care whether the borrowers were creditworthy because they weren't going to be there at the end. The real estate prices, the appraisal values, everything went through the roof, and people for a period of a few years were making all sorts of money. Boy, I made 3 houses this year, and I flipped them, and I made $500,000.
Right.
And now I can only get 3 houses, so I'll buy one in the name of my dog, so that we can so Fluffy can get us another $50,000. The world went crazy there, and now we're dealing with the aftermath of people who, good people, legitimate people, it's not their fault, and they think they are, that it's their fault, and they're ashamed or embarrassed. It's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong. They're into these adjustable loans. They're into loans that they shouldn't have been in, and they can't afford it. And now they're going back to the banks, and it wasn't the bank's problem in the first place, and they have no interest. The banks have no interest. In fact, they have more incentive to foreclose
Right.
than they do to work with the borrower.
Very true. That makes sense.
Right.